It looks like Season of Conquest Commanders will soon be usable in KvK Season 3. This is a big change, and there are more that were announced in the recent face-to-face with the developers. So stick around in this video for the crazy things on their way to Rise of Kingdoms. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and change is afoot. I can't find the original message where the developers said that Season of Conquest Commanders would be available in KvK Season 3, but this is a big deal, and according to the VIP support group, this is happening in May. After the May update, the Commander and Conquering Season can be used in the KvK 3 Lost Kingdom. Now, this is just tip of the iceberg for the changes that are on their way into the game, but since this is sort of the big thing that people have been messaging me about, let's talk about this first. I tried to do a scan to find the original message where the developers hinted this might be coming, and this is the best thing I could find. It's an old face-to-face with the developers where the question was, the commanders of the Season of Conquest are too powerful. As a newcomer, I don't have any commanders to use. And the developer said, hey, thanks for your feedback. As more content and commanders are added to the game, the gap between the commanders of Season of Conquest and those previous generations is getting wider and wider. We indeed neglected to take care of players during the early stages of the game's development. To rectify this issue, we recently added the museum system and increased the number of commanders in the museum. We're currently exploring the possibility of adjusting the commander drop time before the season by making the sources of some conquest commanders more readily available. I think this was it, chat. I think this is the thing that got people asking VIP support. Hey, wait, does that mean Season of Conquest commanders are going to be there in KvK Season 3? They're also rebalancing some commanders of the previous generations before the season starts to improve the overall gaming experience. We'll continue to pay attention to your feedback. So the thing that I think is a little tricky here is the nature of the museum system. And if you haven't seen that yet, I'll just jump in game so I can show that to you while I talk about it. This building over here is called the museum. You get it in KvK Season 4 and beyond. And within the museum, you can buff up your commanders, but it takes exhibit currency and relic currency. And this is perhaps where the problems start to begin. Because although we can say, like, hey, these commanders are now balanced with Season of Conquest commanders, the stuff you get in KvK Season 1 through 3 is now balanced with the endgame, is only partially true because you have to have the exhibit currency and the relic currency to actually get these buffs. So if you even had the commander or had them at a moderate power level, you still have to get these buffs for them to be at the level of punch that you need. And you just don't get that many of these very quickly. So your transition into the Season of Conquest as a new player in the game is rough, even with the addition of the museum system, because even if you're spending, it's a non-trivial amount of money to get your commanders to punch as hard as they need to punch to handle Season of Conquest, okay? So this is just one piece of the puzzle, and although the recent additions of Genghis Khan and Saladin are nice, of course, there are more commanders still missing here, more commanders that are theoretically on their way sometime soon from the earlier seasons of KvK. These screenshots were courtesy of the Mountain Man, who shared yet another conversation with VIP support for Rise of Kingdoms. They say, I would love your reply on this topic. Please make it detailed so I understand what's going to happen and can prepare. This is our Kingdom 2923 will enter KvK Season 3. And support says, if your kingdom enters KvK 3 after the update, your kingdom can use Season of Conquest commanders in KvK 3. Whoa. So not only are we giving players access to Season of Conquest commanders, but you can start using them right away, which means migrants back to young kingdoms are once again gods among mere mortals. They say there will be detailed updates in May, but there's no news about the specific time, so please focus on our game. Presumably they mean the game announcements. After the update, Season of Conquest equipment still cannot be used in KvK Season 3. And so I believe this is Mountain Man saying, so the updates will be in May and will be expected to have them unlocked. Will it be used only in Kingsland or all zones? And they say the kingdom that enters KvK 3 after the update can use all Season of Conquest commanders in all scenarios. Boom. Crazy. So that theoretically could be the brand new hottest commanders. Now, why might the developers be doing this? We heard this in my interview with Nephisto that I did on my channel the other day. I'll have a card up in the top and in the end screen. That he just felt like he spent all this time in the early game getting irrelevant stuff. And I definitely understand that sentiment. Although the early game commanders are relevant in the late game, they're not the meta. So you're stuck getting stuff that's good, but not as good as what other people are getting every single day. And in addition, I've talked to other people like Mad Max, who's a big whale in early seasons of KvK. And he has also shared the same sort of a sentiment that it's like, yeah, I feel like I'm spending all this time working on stuff and just sitting on the wayside while other people are getting better stuff in Season of Conquest. So I understand the interest in pulling forward Season of Conquest commanders to KvK Season 3, but the thing that I will just marvel at is how powerful a migrant back to a young kingdom will be if they have access to all the Season of Conquest stuff and other people are still getting access to it for the very first time. I mean, it sort of brings into a question the balance issues that have been going on for a very long time in the game, which is the dynamics between old accounts migrating back to younger kingdoms and younger kingdoms feeling like they need more stuff to be able to be ready for Season of Conquest when they get there. And I feel like the most obvious sort of solution would be to pair Season of Conquest kingdoms with each other once they just get to Season of Conquest and they're new, they're fresh. So to basically prevent the young kingdoms from fighting the old kingdoms. But this sort of recreates the original problem that Rise of Kingdoms had back in the day, where you have the sort of kingdoms that are the haves and the kingdoms that are the have-nots. So this is a sort of a complex issue, but I will definitely be making an update video talking about how this ultimately pans out with Season of Conquest endgame commanders in sometime in May, that's this month, being usable in KvK Season 3 and beyond. But this is not the only feedback that came from the developers recently. Let me show you some additional stuff. Here we are with the community feedback for April and March, and there are some big updates in here. First and foremost, add a migration log to the Lost Temple features, which will show every migrant and their current location for 7 days after the migration window opens. The log is to show kingdom number from where they came from, as well as the migrant names in different colors of each kind of migrant. White for same season, green for cross-season, blue for targeted migration. Essentially, players are like, bro, give us more tools to manage our migration, which I think is fair. They say, thank you for your thoughtful suggestion. We're actually in the process of building a migration log, so definitely be on the lookout for that in future updates. I think that covers some of what was asked for here, but certainly not all of it. And I think the point I'll sort of make is that given that migration is more important than ever, right? Like, you get players that are migrating back to KvK Season 2, you get only so many of those. I feel like it'd be very worthy for players to have more control over who comes into the kingdom and who's not allowed. But let's go to the next thing here. Make it so you can delete messages and DMs and group chats. Hey, that'd be nice to do, right? Like, if you make a mistake, you could delete it and then repost or whatever. And they say, thanks for your suggestion. We're gradually improving the chat function and plan to introduce the delete message function soon in 3 updates or so. So like 3 months from now. But hey, getting it at some point is good. They say the autarch rewards require too many gems. And even then, the rewards themselves are too random to be worthy of the cost. And I definitely agree. For those of you that don't know, at the end of the KvK, you win the right to spend gems to get a random assortment of commanders, and people don't find that all that exciting. And the developers say, we hear you. We've optimized some aspect of the autarch experience in 1.0.68 and will continue to adjust it according to governor's feedback in the future. They say, I love the new change to the rallies where we can switch our marches, but the join and switch buttons are both green. Many times I found myself clicking it more than once thinking I haven't joined the rally yet. I suggest switching the switch button to a different color other than green. It should not be the same color as the join button, which is fair enough. And they say, great suggestion, already included in 1.0.68. Next, they say, when open hospital window, please make all troops unselected by default and let players select the amount. This is probably a net negative change, in my opinion. And what do they say? Thanks for the suggestion. We understand that advanced governors might prefer this, but we want the default to cater to the majority of governors, including newcomers. From our observation, most governors prefer to heal all troops at once. And we appreciate your understanding as we make the aim to make the game accessible by all players. Okay, struggled to read that a little bit, but the point is that it's way better for everything to be selected by default. If you're in trouble, you get like half a second to start a heal in your hospital before your enemy re-engages you in combat, and then you can't start a heal anymore. This is very critical if you're ever getting swarmed or if you get imprisoned. So I think that it actually would be a net negative if they made it so you had to select your troops instead of having them all selected by default. So for faster hospital healing, I think it's way, way, way better to have all troops selected by default. From there, they say add more preset panels and with all 7 marches, so we have presets for farming, fighting, barbs, and arc. We appreciate your suggestion and we'll consider it. I mean, I definitely need more presets than I have. It is 100% true that I don't have enough presets. Then they say, make it so scouts can wait longer than just 5 minutes. Call of Dragons, scouts can wait up to an hour. This should be done here as well. They say, thank you for the suggestion. We plan on making scout wait times more flexible, which I think is good. I generally think that scouting is not a great experience. Like, I don't want to have to scout the entire map 2 KvKs in a row, which means there's too much work to scout. So I think that changing something about scouting and how that all works would be a very good idea. If you have any other suggestions, feel free to post them in the in-game suggest channel in our official Discord. We appreciate your feedback. That's what motivates us and continuously guides us to improve the game for all governors. GG. I would say all in all, the thing that I'm most curious to see how it will evolve is the KvK Season 3 commanders being now the Season of Conquest commanders. Like, I don't know what the commander cycles are going to be. Is it going to be the same commanders you get access to in Season of Conquest, whatever's the newest thing? Or is it going to be something different? But I'll cover that as soon as it's available. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as I promised in the middle of the video, there's a card in the end screen in just a second for Nephisto's explanation of why he kind of got ultimately bored on his way to the end game in Rise of Kingdoms, related to the topic we covered today. And if you want to see an end game account that was completely stacked, and in case you missed it, yesterday I did a video reviewing Fuzz Insane account. Card will be in the end screen for that as well.